Are you looking for some festive and unique Christmas DIY ideas? Well, look no further because today I've compiled 10 of my best-selling Christmas DIYs. Whether you are looking for projects to sell, to give as gifts, or just to make for yourself, I think you'll find plenty of inspiration in today's video. So, let's get started. I'm going to start with an updated version of one of my best-selling ornament ideas. If you haven't seen the original video, I'll link it in the description box. This new version was inspired by one of my viewers, Paige Roussel. For this project, I like to use the clear glass cube ornaments from Hobby Lobby, but the flat oval ones work well too. I printed out vintage art nativity images in a 4x4-inch size to fit the back of the glass ornaments. Then I cut them out, rounding off the corners. I also printed out Bible verses 3¼ inches wide to accompany each picture. Be sure to let the ink fully dry. If you have issues with ink bleeding, spray the images with hairspray and let that dry before proceeding. Apply a thin coat of Mod Podge to the back of the ornament and over the front of your image, and then gently smooth out the paper. Cut out the Bible verses, brush Mod Podge to the back of each verse, and apply them to the front side of the ornaments. Then brush on a thin top coat of Mod Podge. Let the Mod Podge dry. Then glue trim like pipe cleaners or rickrack around the edges of the paper. I used some beaded ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I adhered it using E6000 for jewelry and beads, but I usually just use hot glue. Either one works equally well. Brush Mod Podge on the paper inside the trim and then sprinkle on glitter. I recommend applying a clear top coat to prevent shedding. Add some fake snow or other filler to your ornament. I used metallic tube confetti from Dollar Tree for an elegant look to coordinate with the classic nativity art scenes. I spray painted the ornament caps gold, and to further dress them up, I hot glued on some miniature gold stars to the cap fronts. And finally, I tied on some gold ribbon for hanging. Woodland-themed ornaments are so popular right now. You can sell these individually or as a set. To start, you'll need wood slices or wood rounds. The ones I'm using are from Dollar Tree. Stain the wood with some watered-down antiquing wax. Then print out these woodland animal images on t-shirt transfer paper for light fabrics. Cut out large circles from the transfer paper, making sure the animal image is in the center. Place the image face down on the wood round. Press it with a hot iron for about a minute. Then carefully peel off the paper backing to reveal the image. Lightly sand around the top edge of the wood round to remove any excess transfer paper. To dress up the edges of the wood rounds, I covered it with burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree. I also like to embellish each ornament with some faux pine branches and tiny pine cones. If you want a crisper, more colorful image, this is how the transfers look when applied before adding antiquing wax. Here's another cute ornament idea that sells well for me. Start with the tiny buckets from Dollar Tree that are in the wedding supply aisle. Spray paint the buckets your desired color. Green is very popular this year. Print out the botanical labels that I created in a small size to fit the side of the buckets. Brush a little Mod Podge to the back of each label and adhere them to the buckets. Then add some faux greenery that somewhat matches the labels. This is a great way to make use of small floral scraps left over from other projects. Add some Spanish moss to cover the styrofoam. Then, to create a snowy effect, spray the faux greenery with spray adhesive and then sprinkle on fake snow, iridescent glitter, or both. This next project is a bit time intensive, but it's relatively inexpensive to make. I begin with a thrift store picture frame. Cut out black poster board to fit inside your frame. Measure the length and width of the frame opening and cut out a Christmas landscape on white vinyl using your Cricut or other cutting machine. By the way, Dollar Tree vinyl works just fine. After weeding out your vinyl, apply it directly to the poster board and then reassemble your frame. Here's another version of this project. This time you'll need a shadow box or an old clock like I used. Remove the clock parts and paint the clock face white or cover it with a piece of white poster board or foam board. Then cut out the Christmas silhouette from a piece of black vinyl or poster board. If you don't have a cutting machine, you could print the silhouette on a piece of white cardstock or poster board to get a similar effect. Use glue stick to adhere the black poster board silhouette to the white background. Use additional black poster board to cover any space below the silhouette. If you like glitter, you can spray the scene with spray adhesive and then sprinkle on iridescent glitter. Finally, pour faux snow into the frame, adding enough to reach the ground level of the silhouette. Then reassemble the frame. I also painted my frame black. These next ornaments are similar to the glass cube ornaments, but are made with the clear plastic balls that split down the middle, and you'll only be using half of the ball for each ornament. Cut out a circle or scalloped circle from scrapbook paper in a size that is just a little bit larger than the size of your half ornament. Then print out some vintage Christmas images on cardstock, or use old Christmas cards. Trace around your ornament and cut the images into circles to fit on the back of the ornament. To create a 3D effect, print out a duplicate image on cardstock and then just cut out a few select objects from that image. Apply a good amount of hot glue to the back of your cutouts and then carefully and lightly press them over the top of their matching image. Apply glue stick to the back of the round image and then adhere it to the scallop circle. Put a little fake snow in the center, then apply clear Gorilla Glue to the outer edge of your ornament.
Align the ornament with the outer edge of the round image and press in place. Add some ribbon or a hook to the top of your ornament for hanging. For this next project, you'll need a piece of 4x4 timber. I cut 2 pieces, both 6.5 inches tall. Next, print out the 8 illustrations from the vintage book, A Visit from St. Nicholas. I've already sized the images for you. Alternately, you could print out vintage sheet music or hymns to use instead of the pictures. Apply Mod Podge to one side of the timber and to the back side of your paper. Adhere the paper, smoothing out any wrinkles with your fingers or the paintbrush. Repeat this process on the remaining sides and on the remaining timber, arranging the book pages in the correct order to tell the story. Then use sandpaper to remove any extra paper at the top, bottom, and the 4 side edges. Brush another coat of Mod Podge over all 4 sides to seal and protect the paper. Mark the center of the top of each timber and drill an appropriately sized hole to hold a bottle brush tree, a taper candle, or a candle cup or plate. Apply some watered down antiquing wax to the bare wood, dabbing away the excess. Finally, add your selected topper, gluing it into the drilled hole if desired. People love charming handmade items they can't buy in stores, so using architectural salvage like spindles is always a good idea. These skinny spindles were from an old magazine rack, but any size works well. You'll also need some wood blocks and wood balls. Drill a hole in the center of both the block and the ball, just slightly larger than the ends of your spindles. Add wood glue in the holes and insert the spindles. Paint everything with white chalk paint. When the paint is dry, you can lightly distress the wood with sandpaper if you like. Now you're ready to decorate your snowmen. Here's what I do. To create a scarf, I cut a small strip from a thrift store scarf and tie it around the top of the spindle. To make this project easier, you could use the styrofoam snowman heads that are in with the Walmart miniature ornaments, but I just wanted to use his hat. To create a stocking hat for a different snowman, I cut one of the frayed end pieces off of my scarf and glued it around the top of my wood ball. Then I used a piece of thread to gather my frayed ends together and tied it in a knot. Then I glued a small piece of Chanel pipe cleaner around the bottom edge. I painted a small wood star with some orange chalk paint, and then I cut it apart to create carrot noses, which I glued in the middle of each wood ball. I used a black paint pen to dot on eyes and a mouth, and a pink highlighter to create rosy cheeks. To create arms, I drilled small holes on either side of the spindle just below the scarf, added some super glue, and inserted some small sticks from my yard. I followed the same steps to make this large spindle snowman, only I used the cuff from an old sweater to make his stocking cap. Anything with mushrooms is a hot seller right now. Here is a cute idea for mushroom ornaments. Cut out the individual egg cups from a foam egg carton. Massage each cup, pressing to make it as thin as possible, and then carefully turn it inside out. This will give you a much more realistic mushroom shape. For the stems, I cut up some small tree branches and then hot glued the end of each stick to the inside of the foam cups. Use chalk paint to paint the underside and top sides of the foam cups and let the paint dry. Then use the end of a small paintbrush to add some polka dots. For further embellishment, wrap some roughly elasticized lace around the top of the stick and hot glue it in place. To create a hanger, drill a small hole in the top center of each mushroom, making sure the drill bit goes into the center of the stick. Then screw in an eye hook and add a loop of string or twine. You could also make similar mushrooms using acorn caps in place of the egg cups. For this next DIY, I get free pickle and olive jars from a local restaurant, and I wash the jars in my dishwasher on the hottest setting to remove any residual odor. If it still smells, you can also soak the jar overnight in a 50-50 solution of vinegar and water. Next, I print out pretty vintage labels in the public domain to decoupage to the front of the jars. Once they're adhered and I've smoothed out any wrinkles, I apply a top coat of Mod Podge to seal and protect the label. I paint the jar lids with chalk paint in colors that coordinate with the labels, and when the paint is dry, I lightly distress the lids with sandpaper and then seal them with a coat of clear wax. Sometimes the jar lids have been damaged, so alternately, I decoupage a piece of scrapbook paper to the top of those lids. I look for cookie cutters at thrift stores throughout the year, so by Christmas time, I usually have a good supply. I fill the jars with cookie cutters and use one as an ornament on the outside of the jar. I also like to attach a vintage recipe card with or without a sugar cookie recipe. This next project is a great way to repurpose old Christmas cards. To create a reshape out of foam board or cardboard, trace around a couple bowls or plates in different sizes and cut out the circles with a utility knife. Then gather up your old Christmas cards. When I don't have many Christmas cards to use, I print out vintage Christmas card images that are all in the public domain. Rather than leaving all of the cards in their rectangular shape, I cut around some of the images for a more interesting display. After I have several cut out, I begin playing around with the arrangement and hot gluing the images to the cardboard ring. Make sure to overlap them so that all of the cardboard is covered. To keep my wreath cohesive, I had specifically chosen Christmas images that were primarily green and red in color. So to highlight the red, I went over those areas with Mod Podge and then sprinkled red glitter into the glue. If you're not a fan of glitter, you can certainly skip this step. Then I made and attached a red bow with florist wire, making an extra loop of wire to use for hanging. Although I only make a few of these each year, they always sell immediately. I hope you were inspired by today's projects, and I hope you'll let me know which one was your favorite. Thank you so much for watching today, and here's another video I think you may like.